dead!
Hello, welcome back to Ycft. Come join us on our yellow couch where we talk about 1981's The Burning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a Friday the 13th top on. I know that is not this film, but we are going to refer to Friday the 13th quite a lot.
Yes.
Because this film came in the wake of Friday the 13th and the Friday the 13th copycats. Even though this was actually written before the first Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm. It was.
And this is also about the Cropsy maniac, or the Cropsy killer. That
Yes.
Madman, which, if I've got my schedule right, came out last week. So I thought it'd be good to pair these two together.
Yeah.
This is the film that made Madman change his name to Madman.
Yes.
So do you want to do a quick rundown of what the Cropsy maniac is?
Cropsy he's a real life urban legend. He's a legend of a boogeyman. Bogeyman? Bogeyman. Of around Staten Island. He was known to be a murderer who would kidnap children and lure them into the tunnel system of an abandoned mental asylum, which he either escaped from or he just liked to lure them to an abandoned asylum. So that's where the legend stemmed from. And yeah, Madman at the time that was being made, they wanted to make a movie based on Cropsy in some way. Burning just happened to kind of get there first, really.
Yeah.
So they don't take the key elements of the Cropsy legend, but they do sort of...
They take his name.
They take his name and they run with it, and they kind of create their own story.
Yeah. The synopsis of this film, so the film starts with Cropsy, who is the caretaker at this summer camp. Who apparently he's a bit of a bastard.
Yeah.
So the campers decide to pull a bit of a prank on him.
Yeah.
Where they dig up a skull for some reason, put some candles,
guess.
just give him a bit of a scare. It goes a bit wrong, he does get a bit scared, he knocks it down onto his bed. Basically, he gets set on fire.
The prank goes wrong.
The prank goes very, very wrong.
Very quickly.
Cut to a few years later, he's coming out of hospital. Obviously, he's incredibly burnt, and he's not
he
okay.
burnt.
He is not okay.
No.
The first thing he does is he gets a... well, it's interesting. They say, like, oh, he's probably going to need a bit of help, but, like, this person, deep psychological damage from what happened, they just let him out.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're probably going to take a long time to adjust into society. Oh, you're not going to be able to do this. Oh, you're going to find it difficult to do this. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
That's literally the attitude.
So the first thing he does is goes to get a hooker.
Yeah, he does.
And she seems fine until she sees his face, and she's mortified, so he kills her.
Oh, so he does.
So he
does
works
kill
his way to a summer camp
him. Yes.
and starts to kill the campers.
Yeah, he
That's
does.
Basically the plot of this film.
It's a summer camp slasher,
It's
guys.
a summer camp slasher. But before we get into the film itself, this film actually has a very important place in cinema history. For good and bad reasons. This was the first film produced by the Weinsteins.
Yeah, it was. It's a Miramax production.
Yeah.
First
The
under
production
their
company that they made during this became Miramax, named after their
mum and dad.
mum and dad.
Yeah.
Harvey produced it. Bob wrote it.
Harvey also gets a story by credit. So I don't know if that's because Harvey maybe came up with the idea to do a movie based around the Cropsy killer, but yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did also produce.
They used to be rock music promoters, and that's
Yeah.
where they met the director
Tony Malum.
Tony Malum,
Tony
who
Malum.
used to direct rock music videos.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I consider, obviously we all know what went down with the Weinsteins. But if you try and ignore every film that they've worked on, that's like 30 years of cinema that just disappears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really unfortunate fact.
It is, and it might be part of the reason why this film's less remembered
Maybe
than others.
I'd always heard of The Burning.
Yeah, but I feel like Madman is referenced so much more. But I'm saying Madman is an inferior film to this one.
I would say Burning is great.
Yeah,
like, honestly,
it's a great film. It seems to be the first film where Harvey was indecent towards a female member of the crew.
Yeah.
It was like an intern. He flashed her and then asked her for a massage, and apparently made it the rest of the shoot just a bit hell. It's your very first film
Yeah.
that he was doing this. Like, he had no pull at the time. Who does he think he is?
He
at
had
this point?
just bearing in mind the context of the time. You know, the Weinsteins were not household names. This was their first film. Like, the budget was just over 700K. Although I found that hard to confirm. Like, I think
it ballooned up to about $1.5 million.
Yeah, you know, but Miramax, Harvey, but like they weren't big names. So, you know, the fact that he was, even on his very first film, he was, you know, the monster was always there.
Yeah, interesting that. I think they clashed with the director of Fair, but they also clashed with Tom Savini, who did practical effects on this.
Tom Savini.
He actually turned down Friday the 13th Part 2 to work on this.
He did.
And they argued with the director over the ending, and they asked Tom Savini to direct a new ending. He said, look, I want to leave with as many friends as I came with. So they just recut the ending to be how they wanted to. We know they did this a lot in the 90s and early 2000s, so they did that on their very first film as well. And sometimes it works to their advantage, sometimes it didn't.
A lot of the shots.
As horrific as they are, they have produced a lot of really good films. As a fan of horror, it's so difficult.
Well, you know,
but that makes this film quite an important one to be the first one that introduced them into the industry.
Yeah.
I think it was their mum that funded it. Also, I found it because Holly Hunter. This was like one of her first roles, or her first film role.
Yeah. It's
basically, she says she was a glorified extra in it, but she was getting paid like $1,000 a day. She said she didn't have to wait on tables. She could pay rent. It helped her get like Screen Actors Guild card. And it seems like everyone was like, apart from that one intern, seemed to track quite well and paid quite well. And maybe that's just because of their first film, they didn't really understand the cost of production.
Yeah, it's a feature film debut of not only Holly Hunter but also Fisher Stevens and Jason Alexander. So the three of them got their first big break with it. It's also the first film of the Weinstein. So yeah, it is interesting from that standpoint.
Yeah, it's like there's so many big names in Hollywood
involved in this film. Yeah, for sure.
And I know Tom Savini got to do some of his like most creative work on this as well. He turned down Friday the 13th purely because Jason was going to be in. He said, "No, Jason's dead."
Yeah,
it's like that's stupid.
Yeah, he didn't like the plot for part 2. He was like, I've got this other script called The Burning, which I think is better, so I'm going to go into that.
I remember in the feature he said, look, ironically, I know I did return to Friday the 13th later.
Yeah.
But I think he made the right choice here. But this film had even though it was written before Friday the 13th, it obviously came in the wake of it.
Oh, yeah.
And also had to contend with Madman the same year. But it came out, was it 2 weeks after Friday the 13th Part 2?
It was 1 week.
1 week. That is so unfortunate.
It was 1 week. Friday the 13th Part 2 was released the 1st of May, released on May Day. Burning was released on the 8th of May.
So it did okay. I think home video did much better. Obviously, it was enough for the Weinsteins to go on and do more films. But that is if they could have pushed their release date 2 weeks earlier, I think they would have done a lot better. But it's hard because Friday the 13th Part 2 is it's a great film.
Oh, it is. Part 2 is one of the best of the Friday series.
From a production standpoint, The Burning looks way better than the first Friday the 13th. They filmed a lot they did a lot of like day for night shots to avoid filming. They wanted to avoid filming at night as much as possible. And the camp is a running camp.
Yeah.
This is so unique. And we've seen it in other, like obviously in Madman, it's the end of the camp, so there's only a few campers left. In the first few Friday the 13th, it's like, oh, they're getting the camp ready, or they're training the councillors. No, this is a working summer camp. There's a lot of extras. There's hustle and bustle. The main part of the film is a group of campers being taken out for the day in the canoes. Like, oh my God, this is actually a functioning camp.
Yeah.
We probably won't see this. I think the only film where we've seen a camp functioning like this would be Sleepaway Camp, which was like 5 years later.
Sleepaway Camp, yeah.
So that in a sense, like, it has a grander sense of scale.
Yeah, and one thing I also really like, it's something, not to dwell on Friday the 13th at all, although I do feel like we're going to be bringing it up.
It can't be helped.
But one of the things I love about Friday Part 2 specifically is the camaraderie that you have between the councillors. And in The Burning, it's a really similar thing. There's not a character here that I dislike in the sense that, you know, like I think that they're wasted in any way.
There's unlikable characters because they're meant to be unlikable.
Because you're meant to not like them. But in terms of, you know, their arc or, you know, the dialogue, and then even the way that they interact with the campers as well, I really like it. You know, I think it's really well done. I mean, we've got Michelle, who's like the lead female counsellor. We've got Todd. He looks after, you know, all the boys. When we've got Sally, who is, you know, a couple of the guys quite like her. Glazer has got his eye on Sally. We've got Alfred, who's the odd one out, who quite likes Sally as well.
My main issue with this film comes from Alfred's introduction.
Yeah.
Because the introduce kind of like, given the Sally gives a bit of a scare in the shower, isn't it?
Yes.
What's going on? Sally, what is it? Alfred, he's poking me in the shower and he wouldn't shoot.
Oh, hold it. Where are you going, huh?
It's weird because he kind of comes off as a bit of a perv. And it's like, it's unclear whether or not he's just kind of like trying to have a look or if he was trying to scare her. And it's like, it's a weird introduction for this character that we're supposed to be sympathetic for later on in the film. And even like he's like, oh, he has no friends, but he clearly does have friends within the camp. I think it's meant to set up a rivalry between him and Glazer, and obviously Glazer is very attracted to Sally, and Sally's very attracted to him.
Yeah.
That's actually my only issue with this film is his introduction.
I totally see your point. I think on rewatch it dawned on me that he really likes Sally. Alfred fancies Sally, and he knows that Glazer is kind of a rival, even though I don't think it's not like Alfred thinks he's got a chance in hell.
No.
But I think, he's curious about her, hence, like the shower scene, which is, he says it's because he wanted to scare her, but basically I do think it's because he just wanted to have a little bit of a
But I like all the campers, like you said, like the Fisher Stevens and all that. Like,
they
all like...
All right, who ordered the Playboy?
Over here. Dave, did you get my Hustler? Hustler? What are you on with Hustler, Woodstock? You're too small.
Hey, size never stopped, Woody.
They're funny, they bounce off each other really well.
This is the thing, because say with Alfred too, like he's very much set up to be the odd one out. And there's a scene very early on where Todd kind of comes to his defense. I mean, he's not happy with him over the whole shower scene, but he does say to him, look, I know what it's like to be a camper myself. Like, I know what it's like to be at camp.
5 years ago, when I was in summer camp, I didn't just get bawled out by the counselor, I got sent home. You did? Yeah. You don't have to take on this whole camp by yourself. If you've got a problem, if you want someone to talk to, I'm here. Okay?
And, if you've got an issue, come to me about it. I'm
There's
here to look out for you.
He's like he knows what happens when a prank goes wrong because he was there at the beginning.
What about you, Todd?
He was there when Cropsy was burnt. He was one of the pranksters.
And I actually really like him as a counselor. It's like he promises to look after Alfred, and he does.
Yeah.
Later on in the film, it gets quite a point. He does look after him.
But I also, Alfred easily could have been, the odd one out. Almost like Angela in Sleepaway Camp. He could have been just, the silent, sullen one who doesn't fit in. But he does actually make friends. And as after the shower incident, his mates, you've got Fisher Stevens who plays Woodstock, Jason Alexander who plays Dave, they rally around him and they all take revenge on Glazer.
Yeah.
As well. And it's a fun little moment. It's it's guys being guys and looking out for one another.
Functioning camp.
Yes.
Even Glazer to an extent is a bit deeper than your average camp bully.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, do you get the idea that he's a virgin?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Sally. I don't know what happened.
It's okay.
It'll be better next time, baby. Trust me.
Trust me, baby.
Because there's only one sex scene in this.
Yes.
And he's only saying, oh, it'll be better next time. And he kind of just wants to cuddle afterwards. It's it's him and Alfred actually aren't that different.
No, they're not really. Just physically, they are very different guys. Confidence, they are
early in the
different.
film, he's like, oh, you want to try the real thing sometimes. He 100% is a virgin in this.
Yes, totally.
But yeah, they didn't have to go that deep with the bully character.
No. And it's yes, I know we're jumping to a scene quite later on, but say with the sex scene too, Sally and Glazer are ultimately killed immediately after they have sex. But at the same time, it is quite an intimate sex scene.
Yeah.
It's not gratuitous, it's not graphic or anything. But yeah, it's just the way he kind of treats her afterwards. He does literally, he just wants a little bit of a cuddle. And he goes off to get the logs because he wants to do a fire, he wants to keep her warm, and he wants to, stay and But it's interesting too because the rules of the slasher
still being worked on.
Were not concrete yet. They were not set in stone.
What I also quite like is a lot of these kills happen during the day.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And so the main bulk of like people starting to die happens when they take a bunch of the kids out on the canoes.
Yes.
A couple of them go off to have a bit of sex. Doesn't quite happen.
Yeah.
So Cropsy takes her clothes and like kind of like lures her away to get rid of all their canoes, so traps them there. So they build a raft, and a bunch of campers are basically got on a mission to get back to go get help.
Yeah.
And they find one of the canoes just floating. They'd expect, or we as the audience would expect that to be Karen's body when they get there. Slash films have told us, there's going to be a dead body in there. We've just seen Karen be killed. I guess she was killed in quite a vulnerable moment because she's there with a boy.
Oh, it's a totally vulnerable
which is quite
moment.
interesting because she's actually said to the council that she's a bit scared of this guy, but for some reason still goes.
Well, because she wants to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I think she's attracted to him, and
he
she
goes-
wants to think
he
that
goes
he's
a bit
better
too far.
than
She's
what
like,
he is.
No,
I'm sorry, Eddie is a fucking nasty prick.
his performance is really good.
He's
He's a prick. He's horrible, but it's a really good performance.
Oh, it's a good yeah.
And so they get a bit of fight. She storms off, and that's when like she kind of is lured down a path trying to find her clothes, leading to her death. Which is interesting because then they wake up the next morning. They instantly go to him like, Eddie is, where is she?
Yeah.
Because he's got this reputation for being a bit scary. I think, what have you done to her?
Yeah.
You know, Karen told me she was really scared of you.
Oh, yeah? She was scared of me, huh? Then how come she went with me last night?
Maybe it's because she likes you, you dumb bastard. Now tell me what happened.
So, when they find this canoe, we're expecting to see the dead body.
Yeah.
It's not. It's broad daylight and we have our killer. And it's a famous shot of him with the shears. I think it was the director's idea to have garden shears to be his weapon. And this scene, the raft massacre, is we see Eddie get his comeuppance.
Yeah.
In a great... I think Tom Savini loves doing neck kills.
He does.
It's very reminiscent of the
Kevin Bacon
one, but I think it's done a bit better.
Yeah. Well, also when Karen is killed, it's very reminiscent of when... Oh God, I can't remember the name, but the first character to be killed in the original Friday the 13th, the cook, where she gets her throat slit against a tree. It's basically that's Karen's death.
I mean, Thomas, he said it. He felt like basically like a serial killer himself. He was going from production to production,
he said,
killing teenagers.
He said he felt like an assassin because like all of his jobs in the early 80s were to kill teenagers at these summer camps. Because like I think he just got off the Prowler as well, hadn't he?
Yeah.
Obviously, he'd done the original Friday the 13th, and now he's on the Burning.
This Blu-ray. By Arrow Video again, incredible, loads of great band scenes, but he goes through all the kills and how he made them.
Yeah.
And that raft massacre, showing Fisher Stevens' fingers get chopped off, and even like Eddie, soon having the raft upright so he can have his head through there with the face. It makes his neck look a bit long, but it means he can get his full reaction when the knife goes in. And that looked, because it's a raft, you could do that. It was more comfortable what Kevin Bacon had to do for
sure.
his death. It's great, but that scene landed this. I think it was one of the first films on the UK's Video Nasties list.
Yeah.
And when we're watching it, I remember thinking, yeah, I get it.
It's gnarly.
Because also it's the campers. Obviously, they're not the young campers.
But they're campers, man.
Usually, campers are safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say by the time sleepaway camp comes, the campers aren't safe.
Yeah.
But this very explicit scene. Yeah. There's no councillors on that raft.
No.
And they get butchered.
Yeah, they do.
It's incredible. And broad daylight as well.
It is really well
done. The moment when that raft comes back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's spooky.
Yeah.
It's spooky. Well,
eerie.
I gotta say as well, so aside from the prostitute being killed at the very beginning of the film, well, almost the very beginning of the film, Karen is the second victim. And it's close to an hour into the film before she's killed. But I just want to raise it because almost a whole hour elapses before we even see a second kill. And I'm not...
I enjoy spending time with these characters, getting to know these characters. Because it's like, that raft scene is devastating because there's a couple of characters that we really like on there.
And that raft scene, by the way, is an hour into the movie.
Yeah. Because I don't think initially wrote it to have a kill every 10 minutes.
I'm
glad for whatever reason that changed.
They were trying to keep in with slasher conventions, and they were trying to time the kills. But yeah, it's almost an hour in until we get our second kill. But I honestly don't mind. I am genuinely enjoying just seeing this camp in operation. I'm enjoying seeing these characters interact with each other, and that's a
Cropsy
testament
does seem to have the ability to pop up anywhere as well. Because while that's going on, we also have Glazer and I forgot her name again. It's Sally, isn't it?
Sally, yeah.
Yeah, obviously their sex scene and
His death scene especially is
Yeah.
so good.
because he goes up. Glazer goes off to get some matches and some firewood, and
Yeah.
that's when she gets killed. Kind of reminiscent of obviously this film wouldn't have been out yet, but Friday the 13th Part 5. Because that's like
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The garden shears in the eye.
so he kind of like hides her body. So he comes back. Alfred follows him because I think again being a little bit of a perv. I think he kind of wants. He can guess what's going on. I think he kind of wants to have a bit of a.
He wants
bit
to have
of
a
watch.
little look at Sally. Yeah.
Yeah. And Cropsy was hiding in the sleeper bag.
Yeah.
And this killed, like, shears through the neck, up off the ground, into the tree. It looks incredible.
It looks so good.
And the way they filmed that is they had two, like, for the shot of the feet, when Glazer's feet are hanging, they had two 4x4s that he was basically doing a press up on.
He was propping himself up on.
Yeah, and they had kind of like the fake arrow through the head, which is like end of the arrow, curve, arrow head. They had that, but with some shears, so they could put them around his neck. And Thomas Savini said that meant you could show the shears. Show the shears.
Show the shears.
Going into the tree.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good kill.
It's really good, yeah. The blood looks good.
For a character that, like, a lot of Glazer's screen time has been showing off how physical he is. And for him to be,
man, you know,
for him
no
to
one
be so
messes with me and my
easily
girl.
overpowered, I think the build up to that is it's a great kill. Alfred runs off to get Todd? Todd, yes. Todd. Shall we reveal who Todd kind of is in regards to the film? Like, we know he was there at the beginning, but
yeah,
he's our final boy.
Yeah.
This film does not have a final girl.
No.
Also, only one couple is killed after sex, but also no character is pressured into sex leading to death in this one.
No.
It kind of does go against a lot of what would become convention.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a final boy, and also a boy with a dark past.
Yes.
Because usually the final girl is very innocent.
Yes, yeah.
He is not. He's done bad things, and I say a bad thing. He made a mistake. Like, it was a prank that went wrong.
Yeah.
It was a stupid thing, but it wasn't malicious.
No, it was a prank that totally backfired.
Yeah.
How much guilt Todd has felt over the years, we don't know.
No, but also
if he was punished for it, we don't know.
Get an idea that Cropsy was a bit of a bastard.
Well,
for them.
sorry, I know you got a point with Todd, but just to raise this thing with Cropsy, because all we see as the audience is Cropsy as a burn victim. You know, like totally ostracized from society, seeking revenge. The whole reason for the prank is because they want to teach him a lesson, because he treats everybody really badly and like he's not a nice person. We don't see, all we see is burn victim Cropsy.
It's interesting, isn't it? The actor who plays him, his child was born a day before he had to start shooting this.
Lou David.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, interestingly, he's actually not on screen a lot when you see Cropsy.
No.
He's, I think he's there at the end. But say like the canoe scene with the shears, because the director, he had a very like specific way of how he wanted like the shears to catch the light, and Lou David couldn't quite do it. So for a lot of the scenes with Cropsy, it's actually the director.
Yeah, or Tom Savini.
Or Savini.
Like Savini, when he gets set on fire at the beginning, it's Savini's legs.
It is. Yeah.
I think again because the kills are so like technical.
Yeah.
A lot of the time the hands are just Savini's because he knows exactly what needs to be done to get this right.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing with Cropsy, because it's like I can fully believe he's a bad lot, but it is interesting just from the angle the film takes, because we just got to take these characters' words for it that he's a bad guy, because otherwise I think there's room for him to be seen as an anti-hero potentially.
Yeah, until he starts killing innocent campers.
And none of these characters deserve to die.
Because I get the idea that he went to this
Maybe
camp
Eddie.
purely because Todd was there. Well, see, Eddie is a dickhead, but he stops before he goes too far.
I think
they could have made him darker, and I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
All of the characters, like, even like Glazer has a chance to be a bit darker than what he is. But he's not, and Eddie is the same. It's like he's a dickhead.
Yeah.
But do you feel like there was a version of the script where he forces himself a bit?
Oh, what you mean? There was a version?
Do you think like when they're in the water? Because I kind of feel like there could have been a version of the script where he does that.
I feel like he could, potentially.
But I'm kind of glad they didn't go that way, because he's like. It kind of sets up that none of the campers really deserve to die.
No.
No. It's not like Sleepaway Camp, which I've done a few comparisons here, where a lot of people that die for very specific reasons.
Yes, yeah, they're the bullies.
This is like, he's just he's just killing campers. He
He is
clearly
just
never
killing-
liked campers before he was burnt.
No.
But I always got the idea he went there because Todd was there.
Because Todd, he's following the pranksters.
Yeah. So Alfred gets Todd, brings him to the bodies.
Uh-huh.
And this is where Cropsy turns up, slashes him a bit in the head, and then Alfred chases off and Cropsy runs after him. This is when the raft comes back. We see Todd on the other side of the river with, what's her face? I can't remember the other councillor. Michelle. And this is when, again, councillors doing good things with it, right? You need to take that raft back. You just need to go get help, get them away. I need to go get Alfred. He's going to keep his promise. He is going to go. And he said he would look after Alfred, and he's going to.
Yeah.
But first, they have to deal with the rest of these kids. They're not just going to abandon them.
No.
So it's like they're very proactive counsellors, which you would never see in these types of films.
It's characters making smart choices. And I know it sounds like a stupid thing to point out, but, you got to remember, this is a slasher movie. And characters making smart choices is quite rare a lot of the time. So to actually, see, Michelle and Todd being their, very protective, proactive selves is actually, quite rewarding to see.
Todd gets an axe.
He does, yeah.
And he chases them down to an abandoned... It was supposed to take place in a cave initially.
It was deemed unsafe.
Yeah, because part of it collapsed. So they found this old abandoned mill that they kind of dressed up.
Yeah.
I think it works.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Really well. So you get Todd, great lighting. I love my lighting beams with his axe. There's a weird shot he falls down and he sees Sally's body, but it's clearly just
it's just
a still from it. So was that the Weinstein's cutting to add in
maybe
bodies?
I don't know, maybe they just felt like we need a scare here, let's just throw this one in.
Yeah. And so this is when we get the full proper reveal, because we've seen a bit of Cropsy's face in the windows and stuff like that, but we get the proper reveal and he's got a little flamethrower.
Yeah.
It looks great. He only made it within 3 days, didn't he?
He had 3 days to do it.
Yeah, and it looks great. He said he would do it differently today, but he's research what burn victims were. So the eyebrows would be gone, the eyelids would be gone, the lips would be gone, things would stretch. So he said he would do it a bit differently today, but it looks really good.
It looks great. Yeah, it really, really does.
And it's I think in the moment in the scene, it's arguable is Todd the final boy or is Alfred the final boy?
Yeah, it's questionable.
Alfred does help in the fight against Cropsy.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
but it is ultimately Todd that defeats him. Though
Yeah.
apparently there was a version where Alfred died.
Ah.
But I kind of like that Todd got to keep his promise.
Yeah, he's I'll look after you.
And that axe in the head.
Yeah.
Alfred, get out!
Well, also something...
One of the best axe kills, I think, in horror history.
Something to buffer your theory that maybe Cropsy deliberately followed Todd to this camp is the fact that obviously, Cropsy is a burn victim. None of the manner in which he kills the councillors or the campers is via fire.
Yeah.
But in this showdown with Todd, he uses fire to try and get him, which I think is just a little way of...
Well, kind of follows on my theory. The film kind of ends with a campfire scene, which we do get another campfire. Unlike other slashers in this era, unlike Friday the 13th Part 2, which opens with a campfire, the campfire in this one happens at about the midway point.
Yeah, it's
or
still
just
great.
prior. Yeah. Usually you get them at the beginning.
Yeah.
But this one does it. So this one ends with one. We have 1 minute. It's Todd telling this. It's weird that he's telling the story about the prank that he did.
Yeah, it is. Tells the story of Cropsy.
Maybe just how he rationalizes it.
Maybe.
But the film kind of ends with a different camp, different set of counters telling the tale of Cropsy. I think that's meant to be someone else from them. I think Cropsy was going to go from camp to camp, taking revenge on all 4 of them.
Yeah.
I think it was 4 of them there.
I like that idea.
Because one of them, it does look kind of similar to someone that's there.
I like the idea.
That's
I think
my
it
theory.
works.
Because they were thinking about... They did want to do a sequel, but the director didn't want to come back and do it, and obviously didn't end up doing that well. So it's kind of weird. If this came out before Friday the 13th, would we have got sequels to it?
Maybe. I mean, I think the fact that it came out a week after Friday Part 2, and if you were to watch these movies back to back, you could pick off the similarities. Just, the setting alone, the fact that we have a campfire scene, we've got a killer hiding in the woods, picking them off one by one. There's so many similarities.
It's a lot of the kills are very similar to the first Friday as well. Just done. It's going to happen when these films have the same people doing the effects. Obviously, he didn't do it for Part 2, but he literally recreates a kill from the first one, like of going through the neck. It just does it better.
Yeah, totally. I think Roger Ebert had it out for this movie as well.
Of course he did.
Obviously he's not a friend of any of the slasher films. Very rarely is he a friend of horror films. But I think he said something like, where Friday the Part 2, showed a bit of offence. The Burning was just downright offensive from start to finish or something.
This is a very good film.
It is. It actually is. It's really well done.
I think you should be able to ignore the producers.
Yeah.
Just because you have to, otherwise you're not going to be able to watch any film. Or the majority of the films between then and the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
Which...
It's a large chunk of cinema that they are unfortunately forever tied to.
Yeah. But for a first outing, I think it's the first time feature director.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
It's so good. We've watched it twice this year.
Yeah.
Now, we watched it on Shudder just because we were curious about it. Decided, right, we have to make a video on this.
Yeah.
We're going to buy Blu-ray. We're going to watch it.
Yeah.
So we've watched it twice within the past 2 months. And it's this film is really good.
It's interesting, obviously, from, the filmmaking element of it. There's a lot of, really good tidbits. It is a great film. But I also just think in terms of where it sits within horror history is also just genuinely really interesting because, again, this is 1981. This is the period where it's the slasher boom. They are churning them out. We've got Friday the 13th, we've got Friday the 13th Part 2, we've got The Burning, we've got The Prowler, we've got My Bloody Valentine. We've got Mad Man.
1981 was massive.
It was huge. We've got Prom Night, I think, which was the year before in 1980. So, these production companies, they're churning these movies out. But again, it's still early enough where the rules hadn't yet been firmly established.
Yeah, I'd say the rules from Friday the 13th Part 2 onwards.
Yeah.
Because then you have the film, obviously all of these are kind of the majority of them are copying off Halloween and Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
But when a sequel comes out,
yeah,
that's when it's, all right, so this is how we need to do it.
Yeah.
Because not long after that, we got Halloween 2 as well.
So, I mean, again, The Burning, it's technically after Friday Part 2, but only by 7 days. They were basically being made, back to back, from what I can gather. But even then, we've got a final boy. I mean, Michelle, the lead female councillor, she does survive, but she's not there for the final showdown. And she's not useless
through the film either.
No, she gets back on the raft. She keeps them going when they get tired. She calls the police. She's, there, I think, in the helicopter at the end, isn't she? Making sure, Todd is okay and Alfred's okay. She survives, but she's not there in the final showdown with Cropsy. So that's why we're saying that there is more of a final boy angle, which is rare for a slasher.
Todd kept his promise. He
did.
He looked after Alfred.
He did. I think I really love it. I never get bored in watching it, and the effects are really well done. The characters are interesting.
The killer's got interesting. The fact that the killer mostly kills people the same way as well, it doesn't get boring.
It doesn't get boring. And even the fact that, we've got quite long gaps, especially in the first half between kills, that period of time is not boring. It's not filler. It's no, I'm actually enjoying hanging out with these characters. So yeah, I wish more people were aware of it. And don't get me wrong, I'm always really happy that Friday Part 2 gets credit where credit is due and did well. But The Burning deserves a bit more.
I think it deserves
attention.
a sequel, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe a remake would be interesting. But I'm glad that there's a good Blu-ray out there. It's on Shudder. It's all on YouTube.
Yes.
It's not hard to get a hold of the film. The fact that any film that made it on the video nasties list, is going to be a bit spicy.
Yeah, exactly.
And some of them you kind of think, because I think Madman was as well, wasn't it?
Was that video nasty?
I think so. This one, you kind of look at it I get it.
Yeah.
We totally get it.
Yeah. It's interesting too because, again, you've got two movies that are trying to be written at the same time, both landing on Cropsy as subject matter.
Yeah.
There was no correlation between the filmmakers or anything. They just happened to have the same idea.
This has happened a lot throughout. Even White House Down and Angel Has Fallen come out the same. All about an attack on the White House and the president.
Yeah.
These films, or as we found out, was it Psycho and City of the Dead or Village?
City of the Dead. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both very similar films.
Yeah, the structure
that
of
came
them
out
is quite
a month
similar.
apart from each other.
Yeah, but couldn't be more different in terms of production and everything else. It is strange, there's patterns throughout film history of just filmmakers having the same idea.
Have you got any more notes on this one?
No, no more notes. But I really do just want to sing its praises.
Track this one down and just look into the making of it because it's just an interesting film. Like I said, the fact that most of the kills happen in the daytime as well.
Yeah.
Like there's very few films where the slasher kills from a canoe in the middle of like a lake.
It's such a good reveal too.
Yeah, it is. It's great. So, recommend us a few more Friday the 13th knockoffs.
Yeah.
Like, if there's any that we've touched on a couple of them.
Yeah, you gotta just love the fact that Friday the 13th was itself a rip-off of Halloween, and then we've got The Burning and so many others in its wake that are rip-offs of the rip-off.
It's like you said, the Man video, that thing that Sean S. Cunningham said, it's like they took the worst parts of Friday the 13th to copy.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, he never really understands why.
Well, this film, it took the camp part, and I've not seen the summer camp bit done better than this yet.
No, actually, this is... Yeah, I agree with that, actually.
Yeah, there's the sheer... Obviously, when they actually leave the camping on the canoes, there's less campers, but when we actually see the full camp, there's so many extras.
Yeah.
You can feel... It just feels like full.
Yeah, totally. It's really good.
Yeah. So, thanks for stopping by, guys. Like I said, let us know any Friday the 13th rip-offs that you might want us to check out, because we need to start building a list for next year's summer slashers.
The summer slashers.
And, we'll see you next week.